Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The 6th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft will be the property of the Utah Hockey Club.
What did you call him? The what? He just straight up called him the Utah Hockey Club.
Will be the property of the Utah Hockey Club.
Well, hold on a minute. Now, I get it. That's just a lottery, and it's
You'd
a
call
name.
him something.
It's a name placeholder, but he mispronounced the Utah Ice totally.
All the kids are crushed. It didn't say Utah Yeti.
Okay.
I know. The blizzard.
You guys ready for a breaking rumor?
Let's hear it. I love breaking rumors.
rumor.
Breaking rumor.
We got to play the sound.
Breaking rumor.
There we go.
From the rumor desk here at KSL Sports.
This is why you listen to JJ and Alex.
Jay Stevens here.
This
with
is
the update.
This is not from Smith Entertainment.
Of course
Group.
it's not.
This is from somebody. Who just texted me this?
Somebody Twitter.
Yeah, but this
Twittered
is
you?
breaking online right now, and I knew it was coming within the next 48 hours.
What is it?
The bracket starts tomorrow.
Oh, let the voting begin.
Okay.
The Utah
Tomorrow
Hockey
or the
Club.
next day?
Have you seen the bracket?
Nope, I have not. And that's 100% legit. I have not seen the bracket.
Is it possible that a name not on the bracket could end up being the name?
I don't think so.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Is it possible that the names that are on the bracket, one of them or two of them, we haven't talked about at all?
100%.
Oh, see, that's what I'm hoping for.
But they're all off the surveys that he's done so far.
How can you say 100% when you say you haven't seen the bracket?
Because I have got his word to me that, yeah, I just think he's a man of his word. And he said he was going to come off.
There you go.
Off those surveys, and then he was going to go with what was best and not, bashing on Mormons.
Hey, listen. Hey, listen. This is a man who built this entire sports.
I hope Pat McAfee didn't get to decide which one of those names was on there.
The entire everything that Ryan has, he owes to surveys. So
Right.
He's going to go by the survey. It's on brand. It works, and if he really believes it, then he's going to do it.
So I love on a podcast where he mentioned it too. They're like, "You can't do a survey; you'll get Bodie McBokeface." And he's like, "Look, I can handle surveys. That's
Right.
That's how I became a billionaire."
Look, I was going to say, well, yes, you're not going to. This isn't like a local city, trying to make these decisions. Like we're going to have an open vote,
Right.
And there's like, no, this is not an open vote. They have to be completely okay with the idea of these 8 teams who are going to be on the list of one of those 8 making it. Or how many is the bracket? Did they say it was going to be?
I don't know. That I don't know.
It might need to be a 64.
I hope it's big.
I'm serious.
Make it 128.
If they drop an 8 they drop an 8-name bracket and they all suck, we're going to be like, oh no.
I'm sure it's going to be big. The thing is, I think we still have time to do the bracket and have a named team by the beginning of the season.
That would be cool.
I think that'd be cool. A name that I heard the other day that it took me a minute, it had to sizzle, was the Utah Frontier. And that goes along with the the Minnesota Wild. I kind of liked that. I started seeing some of the imaging on that. The Pioneers keeps coming up quite a bit. Maybe that's too religious.
No, it's not about religious. It's just about not being as. Look, I want something that'll murder something else.
Okay.
All right, like I want something that'll eat something in the wild. You know what I mean? Like I want something that has I want there to be like.
Does a Yeti murder things?
Yes. Anything that crosses its path that it needs to.
Here's the thing about
anything a Pioneer. I feel like it's gonna have suspenders on. I don't want that.
Let's be honest. Like some of the most iconic hockey mascots are not animals. They're not fierce. Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, but
Toronto Maple Leafs. Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, we could be the miners. We have a lot of mining.
I don't hate Utah Miners. Would be cool.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it either. I just hate you guys, and so the answer is no.
Are we overthinking
What
this?
do you want?
Yes, we're overthinking it.
I'm fine with Venom. I'm all of a sudden.
Oh no!
I'm all of a sudden fine with the Mammoth,
What did you say? The Frontier?
the Frontier. Think about it.
That's just like saying, I don't know.
It's
the
kind of like saying
Utah-
Minnesota Wild. Look at that.
I guess, but we've already discussed how that's a dumb name too. JJ and I have been like, what is the Wild? I don't know. It's just like a concept.
Have you been to Minnesota? The whole thing's wild.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Downtown
Especially at
Minneapolis
night.
is wild.
Hey, remember
that's
on
true.
North Temple?
Especially after a
Scary.
Remember
snowstorm.
in North Temple years ago, there was that old restaurant called Frontier Pies.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
That was good stuff.
You get a Frontier Pie. The Frontier Pie, that's what you throw on the ice when you get the.
See, you're already putting the
instead
pieces
of the
together.
octopus.
There's no way.
there's
There's
our
no
playoff.
way. Utahns are throwing good food on the ice.
Hey, maybe a Frontier
No
Pie
way.
is not what you're thinking.
Or maybe it's the ones that didn't sell yesterday.
There you go.
Maybe the Frontier Pie is
Some rotten meringue.
what the Buffaloes left behind. You know? Throw that
boy.
on the ice.
I've been a
They're
firefighter
like
long
also-
enough to know there are no bad pies.
That's fair.
we eat
All right.
them all.
So, as we've discussed all of this, we're awaiting the a press conference from Bill Armstrong, the general manager of the Utah hockey team. I'm not going to go as far. I don't like this when they say hockey club like that because it made it sound like that was the team. That's one of the names that's been thrown out there.
Yeah, and I put an article in, and they corrected me one time. They emailed me and asked me for a correction because I capitalized Utah Hockey Club, and they said, "Hey, that makes it sound like that's the team name. Can you change it to either not be capitalized, or
Okay.
can you change it to
So he said
something else?"
He said it in the lowercase.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, that makes more sense. But yes, we're waiting Bill Armstrong, the general manager, to what we're anticipating would be just a short reaction to Utah being drawn 6th in the NHL lottery. I don't know what's the highest that the Coyotes ever went when they were a franchise. I know they didn't ever win it. I'm not sure what the highest was that they ever got, but 6 has to be kind of right there but they're also it's one of the things that we saw with this team is that there are 4 years into a rebuild, which is more than we could say for the Jazz. So now what's the next step? What is the next step? What's the anticipation? What are the expectations for a team who has had a couple years to rebuild? They are on the upswing, and they're coming to a new city. What are the anticipations, kind of as a club going forward? Do they think that they would be a playoff ready team next year?
Yeah. I believe I believe they believe that, and I believe that, and I believe what they're going to do is go out, and then I've said this before. What Danny Ainge said, it's big game hunting. They're going to go out and they're going to fill that salary cap space. They're going to find themselves a couple veteran leaders that are going to cost some money, which they wouldn't have done before. They're going to go out and spend some money, bring in a couple veterans to go with these young kids they've got. And I mean, man, these guys are phenomenal. The players we have are phenomenal. Cooley and Clayton Keller and Bukestad. And when you watch these guys, Lawson, they're just great players. But they're young.
Which one is Spicy Tuna?
O'Brien.
O'Brien is the Spicy
Liam
Tuna.
O'Brien. And he's unsigned as of yet, but I actually heard from a company today that makes adult beverages that wanted to know if I could get to introduce them together so that they could make that beverage a spicy tuna alcohol beverage. I hope it's not tuna flavored.
That's all. I was going to say that's overthinking it. That's overthinking it. That's not good branding, but I don't know. Maybe that's up to them.
Well, the way the guy killed it at that press conference, you'd sell cases right there.
Oh,
There's
for
no doubt
sure.
about it. No doubt
Absolutely.
And I'm sure he guaranteed himself another contract just by killing it at that press conference.
about it. Yes, he would.
Is he a defenseman?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. He scores goals.
Can't put fighters on D.
There you go.
You can't put fighters on D.
By the way, Logan Cooley was the highest drafted, number 3 overall in 2022 by the Arizona Coyotes franchise, which of course we are not. We are a new franchise.
We are the Utah.
Wasn't Keller a 6? Wasn't Clayton Keller a 6?
If Clayton Keller's a 6,
Clayton
then that,
Keller was number 7 overall in the 2016
see, that bodes
draft.
well for that's the guy who's the only All-Star
Have the
currently
list
on this.
in front of me here.
on
That's
this
Cooley
team.
should have been. I think, Cooley should have been too. But when you're in last place or not,
well. The good news about that is now he's here in Utah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the most important things that I think has come out of everything out of this development is the announcement of the new practice facility in Sandy.
Yeah, we got to break that with KSL.
Very cool. You look around the league, and there's even some clubs now that don't have what Utah's about to have 1 year from now.
Right.
How important was it that they were able to do this and do it the way they're going to.
It's hugely important, especially to this group of guys, these men that were brought over after the way they've been led on, and just the way things have been going for them for a long time. I think it's super important for us as a state and as Smith Entertainment Group as an ownership to say, look, they're building the best state-of-the-art practice facility. It also is in a different community, so it's going to be a great community hub, and it's going to save that mall. It's going to bring a ton of business to that mall and those hotels around with all the hockey tournaments.
So that's answering the question about what's going to happen. No, it's actually going to enhance the area. It's not going to. They're not going to steamroll the mall to build something there.
Right? Yeah, they're going to.
Let's jump out to the press conference here, and we'll come back to all those questions. But here is Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Utah hockey team, right here in the reaction to the lottery that happened today.
And Utah will pick 6 overall in the 2024 NHL draft. Bill is available today to answer questions specifically about the NHL draft, which takes place in Las Vegas on June 28th and 29th. We're going to be jumping right into questions, but first, some quick housekeeping. Please ensure your cameras are on if you'd like to ask a question. Go ahead and drop your name in the chat or raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order received, and you can come off mute to ask your question. Please introduce yourself and your outlet when you do so. I'd also like to invite media to stay on the line today after we conclude the media Q&A with Bill. I will have some information to share on background and to help you prepare for news to come tomorrow, Wednesday, May 8th. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with questions for Bill. Our first question will be from Kyle Ireland from KSL Sports.
Hey, Bill, Kyle of KSLSports.com. Now that you know that you have the 6th pick, how does that adjust your planning? You see the 5 teams in front of you. You kind of had those odds already, but how does that change your planning now that you know who's ahead of you, if you want to move up, down, all of those types of things as well, staying at 6?
Yeah, you get excited because now you know exactly where you're picking. So you're kind of now it's going to the scouting meetings and honing in on the players that we like at 6. So it's really now just targeting your guys. It's an exciting time of year. Just you've kind of figured out. You've all year you've battled and gone to war with your scouts, going across the world. Working every single night in every hockey rink across North America and Europe. And now it's at the point where they're making decisions, and now we're making decisions on who we're going to take at 6. So this is a great time of the year for us as an organization to get together and go through the scouting meetings, go through the combines. And then we end up in Vegas, and it's going to be they've got a lot of talented players up top in the draft, and we got a chance to get one of them.
Ryan Miller, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Bill, Ryan Miller from KSL.com. I'm just curious, what are your general thoughts on the prospects that will be there around 6?
Yeah, I mean, every draft is different. It's kind of interesting. When I was with St. Louis, and we're always picking around 20 to 26, and we're in the same spot every year, and we kind of honed in on that area. Now that we've been going to the rebuild, we've been picking, basically 3 to 6. So we're in that range, and I think the more you pick there, the better you get there. I do believe that, and I think there's a good talent level there. There's they're young men that are 18, and some of them are still late developers, and then you can just see glimpses of who they're going to be. But there's some good talent there. There's some good defensive talent. There's some good offensive players that are there. I like this year's draft, and I know our scouts are excited about where we're picking and the opportunity to pick some of that talent.
Jay Catch.
Bill, Jay Catch from KSL Sports. Just wanted to ask you about the process of evaluating talent. Is this a year-long effort that now it kind of like you hone in on guys you may have been evaluating maybe for years at this point?
Yeah, it's a whole process. When you go through this, because it starts the year before when they're 17, they're underages, and you watch them, and then the summer goes by. You watch them in the summer tournaments, and then you see them with their team. You see them on the all-star teams or the prospect teams. Then they go back with their team, and they end up going into playoffs, and some end up going into the U18. So you see them all over the world in these different events. And there's a lot of guys that, they at the start of the year they're just okay. But then they, in their draft year, it's almost like they become men and they shoot up. And good scouts keep an eye and they keep an open mind as the player moves through it. And sometimes there's even players, that we see it all the time where, the media hypes them at the start of the year and keeps them there. But for our staff, with our experience, sometimes we're not afraid to, as we did last year, to go out and look at different options. And people are like, hey, I can't believe they're picking those guys. But what they don't understand is, 3 years from now, they always turn to us and go, yeah, you got the right guy. So it's a process. You got to have a lot of trust in your scouts, and we have a tremendous amount of experience on our staff, and they've done a good job for our team that's going through the rebuild and being able to add talent. But it is certainly a process that it's a full year of scouting to get to understand the whole player.
Ryan McDonald.
Hey, Bill. Ryan McDonald from Deseret News. Has the preparation process been different with the relocation? How's that affected things, if at all? What's that been like adding to the normal evaluation and scouting process?
Our process has stayed the same. I think the thing that's changed, where our scouts are really excited, is they're excited about coming into Salt Lake, seeing the city and getting the vibe of the excitement in the city. And I think that's going to help us as we go through the process. We have our scouting meetings here. The scouts are just pumped to get in and see the building and the dressing room being worked on. And so I think it's going to be a lot of good energy. And our scouts get to see the new city we're playing out of, and the people in Salt Lake and all the people in the state have been just so excited about us coming. Every time we land here, you get a smile on your face because people are just ecstatic about having an NHL team in Salt Lake.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, Bill. I'm curious, how do assets play into the draft? Like, how can you use those to move up, go down? I don't know. What's kind of the process of using those?
Well, I think, you see teams move down and acquire picks to move backwards. And sometimes you use picks. We've used our picks in the past for the geeky pick, where we've bundled a tremendous amount of picks together to move up in the draft. And the team that's pick starved, that maybe it's just started their rebuild, they like that because they're going to get a handful of picks instead of just having one. So we always try and look at every single option, where we can move up to. Can we move back and get the same player, gain assets? It's a whole strategy in itself, and it consumes you, the week of the draft. We'll talk about some ideas as we move through the process, but the week of the draft, it just consumes you. It's almost like you're not human because you only have one thought, just the entire week is just draft, and it's on. And sometimes there's opportunities to move up, and sometimes there's opportunities to move back. But it comes down to, no matter where you move, you got to get the right player. At the end of the day, you got to get the right player. And sometimes, a lot of the conversations just say, hey, stay in. We've earned the right to pick here. Let's swing from here. So that conversation has a lot, but I can tell you, we talk about it 24/7 in that week. It's crazy how much it consumes us about all the different things that can happen at the draft.
Bill, wanted to ask you, just with regards, a lot of us have an NBA background with the Utah Jazz, and they traditionally bring in a number of prospects for visits ahead of the draft. How does that work in the NHL, and how will it affect you guys not necessarily having a home sheet to have guys maybe be evaluated on right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. The difference is you can bring players in for workouts in the NBA. The difference between the NHL and NBA is once they're booked in for the NHL Combine, you're not allowed to test them. They're locked in to do the testing at the Combine. Anybody else that wasn't invited, you can bring them into your Combine, and we do that. We're set up with all our metrics and everything that we're doing, and we'll probably do that out of Arizona this year just because we're set up in the rinks there. But we'll move it here next year, and that's an important process to know more about the back end of the draft. And like I always say, you never beat the NHL by 7 goals you might beat them by just one goal and one step ahead of them. And if you can find that out in your combine, or you can find that out through data, or more information, you're always digging. You're always, a hungry staff is the best staff, and a staff with knowledge is good. And I like our process that our guys use, and we work on it every day.
Bill, you've talked about how you believe that, you build the core of your team through the draft and supplement with all the other avenues. When you look at the amount of picks you have, not only this year, but also in the next few seasons, does that impact how you look at this year's draft? Do you look at it in a vacuum, or do you plan hey, this year's draft plus next year's draft before you try and make those moves where you strike while the iron's hot, so to speak?
Yeah, you look at really what you can get at the end of the day. Can you bundle all your picks and move up and get one guy? Or, can you just use your picks to take swings at, 4 or 5 guys? Can you use your picks to go out and buy a player? There's so many different options for us. We go in so many different ways. We try not to look at, hey, we got so many picks the following year and the following year. It's year by year, and value those picks. Even though you might have 3 second rounders, value them, and make sure you're not giving them away, or thinking somewhat of hey, it doesn't matter, we got a ton of these picks. We value all our picks, and we try to be as stingy as we can with our picks, and make smart decisions to acquire players or to move up. But it does give us a lot of options in the draft, and I think that's the power of having so many picks, is that if you want to bundle them together from this year or even some next year to move up the ladder to get your guy, you can.
Ryan, go ahead.
Bill, are there any guys, and maybe what's the approach in terms of guys who might be able to come in right away? Does it change from year to year, or is it kind of, you think maybe a couple guys might, but most won't? What's the philosophy there of guys who might be able to come in and play right away?
Yeah, I think when you're normally in an NHL draft, I think the top 3 always have a chance to come in and play. It's also situational. It's also is how good your team is. The one year we had Dylan Guenther who played for us for a small period of the season, but we weren't as deep on our team. Now our team is added more depth and more scoring. So it's harder to make our team. So sometimes it's just easier to send them back to junior, let them play it out there and work their way up eventually. But it really depends on what your team is like. There's some teams, obviously, if you're picking, as one of the top picks, your team's not that good. So there's a good chance that one of the 3 or one of the 5 and the top of the draft can come in and play and have impact for you. But they're still young men. And when they sit in front of you in the office, you realize how young they are. But yeah, there's usually a good chunk, maybe 3 to 5, that can usually play the first year.
Okay, Andrea, go ahead. Probably our last question here.
I was just curious your initial reaction to seeing 6. I mean, there was a lot of talk that it could be higher, it could be, and when you do see 6, you can only control what you can control, but just your initial reaction to knowing that you officially are in that spot.
Well, I think every organization dreams of moving up and picking at 1, right? So we're all very hopeful that lottery ball's going to bounce our way, and then reality sits in and they flip the card and you're like, oh, okay, well, we didn't move back, let's pick at 6. We're going to get a real good player. We're picking in the top 10. This is where we're supposed to be. And here we go. So yeah, I think you always dream, our 2 head scouts, Ryan and Darryl, like to pick at 1 because it can be pretty easy for them. When you're picking at 6, there's a lot more work that goes into it, and you got to hustle and grind on it. But it's definitely reality sets in, and the good news is I tend to look at the positive eyes through it. Hey, we're picking at 6. That's where we finished, and we didn't move back.
Okay, we're going to do one more. Patrick, go ahead.
Hi, Bill. Patrick Kinahan, KSL Sports. I'm wondering, how much do you balance best player available versus the specific needs for your team?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's easy when your team's not full of any players, right? And you can just pick whoever you want. I think it changes a little bit to some degree as you start to build out your team. But I've always challenged the scouts to pick the best player, because if he's that good, you can always move him for who you want. In my mind, if you try and pick too much positionally, you can really go past some really great players, and then everybody will look back and go, hey, why didn't they take that guy? He got 50 goals, because you were so focused on your positional play. And you just have to remember that if that guy's that good and he's going to score 60 goals or 70 goals in the National Hockey League, you're going to be able to trade him for the guy you want. So we try to stick to best player. If it's a tie, then we'll go with the position.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes our media availability with Bill. Thank you so much to Bill for being here today.
There you go, everybody. There's the Bill Armstrong press conference post the news that Utah would be picking 6th in the NHL draft. The lottery, of course, happening this afternoon. And there you go. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll chat a little bit about what was said in the press conference with Bill Armstrong. We'll keep Jay Stevens here because he's nice enough to stay most of the afternoon here with us. Because I do want to know what ended up happening in the city council meeting today that happened in Salt Lake City. So we'll come back. We've got more to go. Stay right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Near you. Accessing. When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex. Presented by G2G Bars. Don't touch that dial! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The 6th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft will be the property of the Utah Hockey Club.
That's Utah Hockey Club, lowercase, all right? That's what we're finding out.
Hey, that's our Utah Hockey Club.
That's your
How cool is that?
Utah Hockey Club getting the 6th pick. The draft lottery held today, and for the first time ever, we are involved, of course, as a community, and we were eyes firmly planted on whether or not Utah was going to be able to get that upset pick. I feel like
Celebrini's going somewhere else.
When John Butchie-Gross from ESPN tweeted the results out, and
I liked those way better.
Right? And they realized, oh shoot, we got to redo it. Well, how are we going to redo it? Just redo it with everybody being the exact spot that they were supposed to go, which is exactly how it worked out.
Are you inventing conspiracy theories
No,
live on radio right now?
You know as well as
we
I
are
do.
now officially an NHL fan base. Because we now buy into the conspiracy theories that exist in the NHL.
The commissioner wanted San Jose to get that number 1 overall
We've arrived.
pick.
Jay, we've arrived.
They knew.
Yep. We're just like everybody else
That's
now.
right. Jay Stevens, our Utah Puck Report podcast host, but also NHL insider for KSLSports.com, joining us here in studio as we have walked you through. You just also heard from Bill Armstrong, the general manager of this Utah hockey team as well, talking about kind of what the philosophy is on making picks. And really, one thing I took away from all this was they are used to picking between 3 and 6. They've gotten pretty good at picking between 3 and 6 over the years.
Hey, Edmonton did it for a while. It worked for them. Now they're great now. They could be, we'll see how they do, but they are a great team.
So you can build a team off of a lot of years of good drafts, and that's why they brought Bill Armstrong in, right? I mean, that's why he's known for that talent scouting, is being able to pick the right guys. So in the end, Jay also was at the Salt Lake City Council meeting today. What was first on the docket, and what was pertinent to you being there and people who are hockey fans here in the state of Utah knowing what they talked about at the Salt Lake City Council meeting today?
So everything was about the Sports Entertainment District. But now we're going to call it the Sports Entertainment Cultural Convention District.
That's what was discussed today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not all that was discussed. And they didn't show – we thought we were going to see imaging today. We saw the old image of what it should look like. And basically – so Mike Mon, great guy. He's been super helpful to me, very chatty. He's one that will answer all your questions.
Right.
And he goes into detail. He talked about a Bravenel Hall, which I've been getting, like even my wife went to yoga and people were giving her crap about my hockey team affecting a Bravenel Hall. Like, your husband in his hockey fandom is destroying a Bravenel Hall.
Bravenel Hall is a concern for people here. It's long term. It's been a fixture downtown, and so that's.
I've had some amazing memories there from high school or whatever. It's a gorgeous building. However, it says the Bravenel Hall and the Salt Palace have years of deferred maintenance and are not ADA compliant.
Okay,
so
that's a problem.
Changes had to be made. Mike Mon got up and said, "Hey, let's look at it." He said, "When I was a kid, I needed braces because not everything was facing the right direction." And he's like, "If you look at the Salt Palace and the way the main entrance for the Salt Palace is, that's just right onto a street. And if you look at the Delta Center, it goes right into a parking lot. If you look at he starts talking about the front entrances and everything. I think the goal is to turn everything inwards, redesign, make everything better, update." And bring it into compliance, make it sound better, make it feel better, and have a legitimate sports entertainment cultural convention district. That's what we're going to have to get used to saying.
I love it, though.
We will not get used to saying it, by the way. We will not say
nobody wants to see a Bravenel Hall go away.
No.
But wouldn't it be great to have a Bravenel Hall part of this?
Yeah, and it's going to be updated.
That's
and
great.
It's I was talking about it before. I was downstairs on KSL News, and I said, "Hey, my grandfather's 95. And he enjoys some of that stuff, but I can't take him there."
Sure.
My father's an amputee. There are parts of that building that we can't go to now with his leg in the condition it is because he's older too. That building needs to be changed so that everybody can enjoy the arts. And the people that are going to those, let's be honest, it's not the 21-year-old that can just run up all those flights of stairs that are going by their own choice. It's the older generation that want to go and see a lot of that stuff. So I think upgrades are due. And they're going to upgrade the Delta Center to make it, the entrance is going to be better. You're going to have a safe area. What it came down to is you can come from all four sides, have great, easy parking. And then you can enter into this area where they have all the entrances inside, and everything is safe in that area. And you can shop, dine, drink, and bring your whole family and be safe. And it's all supposed to be walkable.
I love the concept.
What's the name of it again? What were we supposed to call the
Sports Entertainment Cultural Convention District?
No. So the word cultural they wanted to work in there.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Okay.
We're being inclusive of a Bravenel Hall.
Yeah.
And of course, you have a convention center right in the middle of everything too.
All right.
You have to incorporate all this.
Salt Palace is definitely due for an upgrade.
Sure. Okay. All right.
I like it all.
Jay Stevens, Utah Puck Report. KSLSports.com is where you can, of course, read his byline. Also, anything hockey related, we're getting from you and a lot of other new friends. We're having all sorts of folks on with us all week, from across the country now. That people who have a lot to do with this sport, and they're helping us understand. And you're part of that, so we appreciate it, Jay. So appreciate it. It's been a good one. Be able to have a day. Every day feels a little bit more real, right?
Yeah.
And a lottery with Utah being named as a team that's going to pick six is
today was one of those days.
It's one of those days.
Yeah. So cool.
Really awesome.
So cool.
All right, Jay, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Jay.
Good to be relevant.
We'll chat with you again.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back. We've got our best and worst coming up around the corner. You don't want to miss it. Stay right here, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Hey! This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. It's another edition of JJ and Alex right here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We've got quite the next couple of hours here for you because this is going to be... Look, we've already been immersing ourselves in the frozen waters of hockey over the last few months, and we knew that this was coming down at some point, right? We didn't know it was going to be in April, and then suddenly it was April, JJ, and then... Now we're the biggest fans of the NHL here in Salt Lake City as we've ever seen.
Hockey's on fire in Utah.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
On top of all of it, we of course have now, this is the part we do know about. Covering lotteries, covering drafts.
Lotteries we never win.
It's illegal in the state of Utah to have a lottery. This is the only one we're allowed to win. All right, so
that includes the NBA lottery as well.
We absolutely, apparently it's illegal to win the NBA lottery also. But we'll see how it goes tonight as we're kicking things off here. Joining us on the program right now, Matt Larkin, to walk us through all of this from Daily Faceoff. DailyFaceoff.com is where you can find it. And one of the articles that he has written up right now is about the NHL draft lottery and the chaos rankings, which are a very, very fun read if you want to go quickly kind of dip yourself in there and understand what is at stake here. Matt, thanks for being with the program. We appreciate it, man.
Guys, and I want to extend my congratulations on your shiny new hockey team.
We're having fun with our new toy. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, that's the way you put it in your article, too. It is a shiny new toy. And part of the chaos rankings are, and again, the lotteries in the NBA that we've watched over the years. Now, it's kind of a boo-hoo moment for us here because Utah basketball in the NBA has always been good enough to where the lottery hasn't necessarily applied. And so losing the lottery isn't something like you've been waiting at the doorstep and you just have never won it. The basketball team over the years have just been too good to be one of those teams to be considered at the very, very top of the lottery. This year, however, sixth best odds for this NHL team coming to Salt Lake City. So let's get right into what we're going to expect in the next hour and a half here or so. How does the NHL, I guess, lottery differ from some of the other sports lotteries, and how this works, and how the NHL and Gary Bettman and his guys figure this thing out?
Well, the NHL lottery has been a bit of a moving target in recent years. The rules have been changed. So it used to be that there were 3 different lottery spots. It's been changed now so that there are only 2 spots, because what was happening was there were years in which the team with the best odds was missing on all 3 lotteries, and you'd have teams that did much better during the season, kind of middling teams that ended up winning the lottery, jumping up. So the rules have been tweaked. There can only be 2 winners, and a team can now only move up to a maximum of 10 spots in the draft, which means there are now only 11 teams that can possibly win the lottery. So the goal there was to make it a little more fair to the really bad teams, make sure that somebody bad has the best odds to win. And the other change that was made recently is you cannot win the lottery more than 2 years in a row, because we've had some instances where some teams were terrible, and the Edmonton Oilers, they won the draft lottery in 2011, 2012, 2015. So I think there was a sense that some teams were getting a little too spoiled. That's why the rules have been changed in recent years.
So this draft, the prize seems to be Connor Macklin. Can you, for our audience that probably hasn't followed a lot of youth hockey / college hockey and understand all the top prospects, why is he the prize? Why is he the number 1 pick, and why do so many teams want to have him?
Absolutely. So I'll start by correcting you on the name. It's Macklin Celebrini.
Sorry, what did I say? I said Connor in there. Why did I say that?
It was a mix
Macklin
of
Celebrini.
It was a mix of Connor Bedard and
oh my
Macklin
gosh,
Celebrini.
That's exactly what I just did.
You're channeling what's going to happen tonight, which is Chicago winning again, and it's going to be everybody's going to be so pissed.
Let me try that again. Macklin Celebrini. What makes him the top prize in this draft?
It's okay, and don't worry, it's a forgivable mistake. Of course, Connor Bedard is also Connor McDavid, the best player in the world.
See, you understand why I did that.
I just want to forgive you for that one.
Thank you.
Celebrini, arguably the most dominant season by a freshman in the history of college hockey this year, coming out of Boston University, which is pretty rare for a kid who's 17 years old. You're playing with a lot of grown men when you're playing Div 1 and NCAA. And he was so good as a freshman, won the Hobey Baker Award, which is basically the hockey version of the Heisman Trophy. And he's pretty much a very well-rounded kid. He can do everything well. He's not necessarily just a dominant goal scorer, just a dominant playmaker, just physical, just good defensively. He's sort of a little bit of everything, really well-rounded player, and that makes him quite a foundational piece. And the expectation is he will be a superstar-level player. I don't think necessarily generational, not in the tier of Connor Bedard last year, but maybe 1 tier below that. So he should be someone who becomes a franchise player, who challenges for possible scoring titles or MVPs, who eventually becomes a team captain, basically a franchise building block, and he would instantly become the most important player on the Utah franchise if they were to win the lottery.
Well, so help us out a little bit. The odds at 6.5% don't look like much, but what is the reality? How should things probably shake out if just the numbers are to play out and how things just kind of get slotted in there? If Utah ends up with that 6th pick, which they're anticipated, because for me, it's like we know also that having an early pick in the draft is really good, but having multiple picks in the draft is also something that Utah has. A lot of other picks from a lot of other teams that they've kind of saved up over the years. So what exactly is Bill Armstrong and his crew looking at with the bevy of picks that they have in this year's NHL draft?
Well, it's a good year, I think, to have a lot of picks, especially the fact that Utah, it's funny, I'm always so close to saying Arizona. I have to train my brain now. But Utah, they have 3 second-round picks. They have 3 third-round picks. So you might be able to use some of those, package a bunch of those together, and maybe trade into the first round a second time, which is good. Celebrini is very much the consensus top pick. I don't think anyone's going off the board, but there's still a lot of upside in that first round. It's a really good draft for defensemen. There's probably half a dozen defensemen that could become stars in that first round alone. And even in the middle of the first round, you have someone like Cole Eiserman, who is one of the most dominant goal scorers ever at the U.S. National Team Development Program. So there's a lot of upside all through that first round. So it's a good year to be armed with a lot of picks. And if I'm Arizona, I try to use at least one of those second rounders, maybe a second and a third, package a few together, try and get into that first round, get a second first round pick. And that could be a very exciting yield for Utah.
All right, let's get into the chaos you wrote about, the lottery chaos. What teams would get the most hate if they get the top pick? I'll let you talk about the top 2, but I have to mention that the team here is in your top 3, right? Why is Utah number 3 on your list?
Yes, Utah number 3. So the list is inverted, right? So at the bottom of the list is what I call the least offensive, and I'm basically defining the chaos rankings by how upset other fans would become. So Utah, I have number 3 because you can never underestimate those conspiracy theorists. There is a group, they emerge every year. They're already, today there was a leaked photo of a rehearsal of the draft lottery show, a draft board. The theorists, the tinfoil hat people are already out there thinking the draft order was leaked. Every year, it doesn't matter who wins the lottery, they believe it was rigged in their heart of hearts. They truly do. And I think the opinion there, if Utah wins, would be, oh my goodness, Gary Bettman wants to jumpstart the relocated franchise and get them on the right track. So he rigged the draft lottery to get Utah some extra ping pong balls. And that's why I have them number 3 on the list. But number 2, I have the New Jersey Devils, simply because they're already a pretty stacked team. A lot of people thought they were going to win the Stanley Cup this year. They missed the playoffs because they just had really bad injury luck. But I think they're going to bounce back and be dominant next year. So if you also win the draft lottery, it's almost unfair. And number 1, of course, Chicago, just because they won it already last year. They already got Connor Bedard, and they're sort of a vilified franchise for some of their transgressions off the ice in recent years with a scandal involving sexual assault that they covered up. So no one other than Blackhawks fans are really cheering for the Blackhawks to get more nice things at the moment. And that was the case a year ago. They were at the top of my chaos rankings a year ago too, and they won it. The doomsday scenario played out. So if it happens 2 years in a row, people are going to go bananas. I think Twitter is just going to be ablaze.
Matt Larkin joining us here on JJ and Alex as we get you ready for the very first draft lottery of the NHL for the folks here in Utah. Your thoughts on the Arizona franchise, kind of overall where they were at last year, and what Utah fans can look forward to. You know, the draft notwithstanding, because obviously trying to make a guess on what's going to happen over the next couple of hours is pretty hard to do, but who they have with who's already on the roster, their GM, of course, who we've gotten to know quite a bit over the last few weeks. We really love Bill Armstrong because he's just like a emotions on his sleeve type of guy. He seems to really like the move, and at the very least, he really likes it for his young team because they have some stability. But Andre Tourny, obviously, the head coach, everybody also really likes so far, and they know how talented he is. So what is Utah getting with this Arizona team moving up?
I think they're getting a franchise for whom the arrow is pointing in the right direction. I'm with you on Bill Armstrong. I think he knows what he's doing. He has an extensive scouting background going to his days with the St. Louis Blues. Also, arguably the best storyteller in the business. Just a great guy to talk to. So love talking to Bill. But in terms of the actual team, I think this was the most competitive we've seen the Coyotes in their final years, in several years. They couldn't sustain it all year, but they showed signs of progress. They have more and more of their young prospects graduating to the pros. So Logan Cooley, really creative, kind of a whiz kid in terms of his puck handling ability. Dylan Guenther with a great chance to become a dominant power forward. You still have your franchise player right now, which would be Clayton Keller, just a pretty dazzling offensive player. Not quite superstar tier, but one below that. I think the defense, Sean Dursey really made some strides this year. really good season from your goaltender in Connor Ingram, and you still have some other players coming up the pipe, especially last year. You could see in the last couple of drafts, I would say, Armstrong is really committed to adding a lot of size. You have a really good one in Connor Geekie. His brother plays with Boston Bruins, but Connor is just a big, powerful center. He's someone that I think could have a ceiling to become an all-star. So I think overall this prospect crop, it's not done in terms of the players being injected into this team. So they're going to keep getting better. It's just a matter of can they finally break through and make the playoffs. It's been a while. But if they win this lottery and get a player who can jump right to the NHL, which Celebrini could if he turns pro, I think you could have them knocking on the door of the playoffs as early as next season.
That leads into my question, and the last one we have for you is what are the positions of need for this team that they could address in this draft?
I would like to see them go for a dynamic defenseman. They added some defensemen last year, of course, but I believe so. Dmitry Simashev, by the way, is the main guy they added last year. He's big. He's a tank of a player, but I think there's some really dynamic offensive defensemen that you could add. They went also another big guy, Maverick Lemeru, who they added last year as well. Those two guys are sort of their big physical pillars, but I think there are just some really dynamic defensemen you could get offensive ability, especially someone like Zane Parekh, who I think would be available around Utah's pick if they don't win the lottery. That's the type of talent that would really be a game changer. So to me, that is the greatest area of need, just adding some more puck-moving ability on defense because they've added a lot of forwards. They have a lot of variety in terms of the types of young forwards they have.
Matt Larkin, dailyfaceoff.com is where you can find his byline. You can read up and get yourself educated. Of all the places, that we keep just telling everybody to go, Matt, to educate themselves on NHL hockey. It's been really, really good to be able to kind of download all this stuff for ourselves as well. So we appreciate you joining us on the program today, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I fully expect all of you out there in Utah and Salt Lake to crush it as a fan base, just based on what you've shown for teams like the Jazz over the years. I fully expect it to be a phenomenon in short order, so enjoy it.